Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Vikings Vent Line on Purple Daily every Sunday right here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel and podcast feed. Of course, Vikings Vent Line is a show for you, the Vikings fans. If you want to come on a future episode, hit me up. We got just a little over a month before the NFL regular season starts, but during the off season, I like to talk to as many Vikings fans as possible. So if that's something you'd like to do, hit me up. It is VikingsVentLine@gmail.com. That's VikingsVentLine@gmail.com. It's an email address monitored pretty much weekly. So hit me up if you want to join a future episode, talk Purple, talk some upcoming expectations, talk off-season moves, anything you want to talk about on Vikings Vent Line. It's a safe space for you. And of course, during the regular season, once play gets off here in week 1 against the Buccaneers, Mackie and Judd and myself will welcome Vikings fans on to talk about the game. It's a blast. It's one of the most fun things we do here at Score North and on Purple Daily. So if that's something you'd like to be a part of for the off-season edition or in the regular season edition, hit me up. It's VikingsVentLine@gmail.com. Of course, this is Purple Daily, where we just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die. Show is sponsored by our friends at TCL. Enjoy more of what you love with TCL. Go get yourself a nice TCL television, in fact, for the upcoming football season. I got my guys Luke and Blake who are just about to join me here for an episode of Vikings Vent Line. I want their takes on the upcoming season and whatnot, so really excited to hear from them. Hit that subscribe button for Daily Minnesota Vikings Entertainment right here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, and give us a 5-star rating on the Apple Podcast feed, on Spotify too. However you listen, we appreciate you guys, so hit us up on there as well. All right, let's get my guys Luke and Blake in here. Luke and I were talking off mic. Luke's in the mountains here, so he graduated from the cities, but now he's in Montana. As you can't tell, if there was a Family Feud option, Luke, for most likely places that Luke is living in the United States, I feel like Montana, just by your look, would be in one of the top 4 answers.
Yeah, I'm really trying to hone in that Vikings look. Just channel it into this season.
Nice, man. And then Blake, what's up, dude? Thanks for joining Vikings Vent Line. Where are you calling from? You in the cities? Are you outside of Minnesota? Where are you?
I'm right here in the cities in Edina.
Okay, cool. So got Edina, we got Edina and Wayzata on this podcast face. Okay, all right. For anyone in the Twin Cities, all right, we got some West Siders on here. I like it. Typically, we got people all over the country, and I know Luke's in Montana, but love this. So excited to talk some Purple with you guys here. Thank you for joining us. Let's get into it here. So I ask Vikings fans this periodically throughout Vikings Vent Line offseason editions, and I love to hear from different opinions on all these Vikings fans. So Luke, I'm going to start with you. Give me your hottest take for the upcoming season for the Vikings.
Okay. I wrote down a few here, and kind of hard to decide between one, but one thing I'm feeling pretty confident in is the fact that this running game, it's not going to take a step back at all without Dalvin Cook. I think that it will take a step forward, honestly. Last season we were bottom 5 in rush yards in 2022, which it's pretty brutal, honestly. And I'm big on Madison. It's his 5th year. I really think he's going to step up and kind of be a leader out there, take on a new role. And I think sometimes people undersell his talent a little bit. I think he's more talented than the general public gives him credit for, honestly. Also, I love CJ Ham. I really hope that they utilize him a little bit more this season, just because, there's nothing better than seeing CJ Ham touchdown. That is the best. But I'm also really interested to see what Chandler and McBride have gotten them. I think they could be great in this kind of running back by committee that we got going on. It will be Madison mainly running it, but I would love to see these guys get, some good yards and some nice touchdowns. And just one more note on that. I kind of see Keenan Nwangwu more as a return specialist overall. And he's great at that. 2 touchdowns, 2021, 1 in 2022 off returns. And he's really great at that role, but I just don't know if I see him ascending to more than that and being a true running back for us.
Yeah, on your running back point, so the Vikings didn't rush the ball very effectively last year. They honestly didn't rush the ball a ton. It felt like they did, but in terms of the rest of the league, they actually were towards the bottom, and they just effectively and efficiently weren't great at running the football. And now you bring in Josh Oliver to help open up some lanes. You give Alex Madison basically the keys to the car. And yes, there's some committee members behind him potentially, and Ty Chandler, Dwayne McBride. I don't know if it's going to be like the best rushing attack in the league, but I do feel it'll take a step forward again, being efficient. And I think that's kind of all what Kevin O'Connell wants to see from that. And Madison, although entering his 5th season, to your point, is still young and is still able to kind of handle the load. He's done that when Dalvin Cook's missed time with injuries. He's got a little bit more of a pass catch element too, which is going to be interesting to see. So yeah, I agree. I know the Vikings have had Adrian Peterson and Dalvin Cook for the better part of the last like almost 15, 20 years now. But I'm interested to see what it looks like with a non-bell cow approach, and I think Alexander Mattison can be up there. All right, Blake, you're up next year, man. You're on the tee. Give me your hottest take for the Viking season.
Well, since we talked about the run game, I'm going to talk about the passing game.
Okay.
I think we are going to have a 3-headed monster with TJ Hawkinson, JJ, and Osborne as 1,000-yard receivers. Jordan Addison, I know we're going to probably get to him later, but I think everyone's going to be sleeping on Osborne when the season starts. Everyone's going to be focused on Hawk. He's the security blanket for the checkdowns for Cousins. Obviously, everyone's going to be looking JJ's way. Everybody. Those defensive coordinators and those teams are going to forget Osborne is sneaky good. When we were at the Colts game, he was the one that jump-started that comeback. He made the big catches. He got the touchdowns. Even at the Bills game, when we needed a spark, KJ was the one that started it. I guarantee you right now, KOC, he's probably thinking to himself, everyone's going to be focused on our shiny new toy and Jordan Addison. Everyone's going to be focused in the middle where Hawk is. Everyone's going to be looking deep where JJ is. They're going to forget Osborne is just as talented, and they're going to forget about him. And I think he's going to have some big games for us, and he'll be the reason we are a playoff contender in the passing game. And that's going to set up the run game.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah, it feels like the offense is the most honed it's been in quite some time as a Vikings fan, just from the passing side. Even if the running back in Alexander Mattison by committee is new, it's still, you know what you're getting out of it. And yeah, the weapons around Kirk Cousins are probably as good as it gets. You know, he came here in 2018 still with prime Stephon Diggs and prime Adam Thielen, and Cook was coming off his first ACL surgery from his rookie year. But it just feels like with the line being a little bit more established with 2 really good tackles and Garrett Bradbury hopefully taking a step forward, in general, when you just look at it from 30,000 feet, the Vikings offense looks to be pretty damn good. And yeah, the forgotten soldier in that probably is KJ Osborne. I mean, Justin Jefferson gets all the attention, and rightfully so. TJ Hawkinson was a fantastic addition midway through the season last year. But then you forget about KJ Osborne, who over the last 2 years has been kind of a very pleasant surprise after being pretty much a non-factor during his rookie season. Mm-hmm. And now he gets the chance to kind of be wide receiver 2 or 3, however you really want to look at it. I know we're about to talk about Jordan Addison here in just a sec, but it just does feel like the Vikings offense is as good as we have seen it. And it's probably as good as it's going to be for the first time in a really, really long time. Also helps when you have an offensive head coach and Kevin O'Connell who embraces that too. So yeah, a lot of good expectations for that offensive side. Speaking of it, Jordan Addison. So, I mean, a little bit of a bumpy start in the offseason with missing OTAs or missing minicamp and obviously the speeding ticket. But throughout the first couple weeks of training camp, especially this last week, he has looked really damn good. And he's starting to flash a little bit. You're starting to see why he was a first-round pick. I guess, Blake, you were going to give a hot take too about Jordan Addison. So what is your expectations for the rookie wide receiver this year?
I mean, us Viking fans, we're spoiled with great receivers. Randy Moss, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Moss 2.0, but we also have had our share of missed receivers. Troy Williamson, the famous Randy Moss replacement. Cordell Patterson had his moments, but didn't live up to expectations, and obviously Treadwell.
Yeah.
So we've had some misses, but Jordan Addison, I think once again, we got the best receiver in the first round. Mm-hmm. His ability to create plays in open spaces, that slot position where Adam Thielen, bless his heart, hometown kid, always respect him, Ring of Honor player. Over the past 2 seasons, he hasn't been the same guy. He obviously is a great route runner, but he was lacking that speed that we were noticing early in his career. Addison's going to bring that to that slot position. Check down to him, let him run. Let him get loose, let him get into the open fields. That's where big plays happen. That's where Justin Jefferson and Hawk are going to take away from that middle. JA is going to be in that area, swimming, waiting for a pass to create big plays. For me, my hottest take for him, he'll be rookie of the year. If everything pans out, if he wants to be the player that he can be, and Yeah, rough start. I know, speeding ticket. I think all Viking fans breathed a sigh of relief. There was no alcohol involved.
Right.
But he's got the sky's the limit. It's all about him. If he wants to take it to the next level and be one of the best receivers right up there with JJ, he's got the best team to do it. He's got a coach and an offensive coordinator that's going to put him in that position, and a quarterback specifically.
All right, Luke, how about you, man? What are your expectations for the rookie wideout?
Well, I got big expectations for him. I don't think I'm quite as high on him as Blake is here. I'm not really sure if I could see him being rookie of the year, just because, as Blake did say earlier, I mean, I could reasonably see TJ, KJ, and JJ going for 1,000 yards. But if that were to happen, I'm not exactly sure how big Jordan Addison's role would be when we have those three as an absolute monster, but I think realistically, he will finish as the wide receiver 3 on the Vikings, probably between 600 to 900 yards, in my opinion, 4 to 6 touchdowns maybe. And most importantly, I expect him to behave himself. I really, really want him to stay out of trouble. That kind of scared me a little bit. I was just like, no, it's too early for our first round pick to be doing stuff like this. And, say what you will, it's a speeding ticket, but it wasn't the greatest choice, and it didn't put him in the best of light. So I'm really hoping that he'll be a quick and witty slot receiver. And like you mentioned, I have loved some of his tape coming out of training camp. I don't know who the defensive player he's up against is, but he kind of catches a ball and shifts to the left and just absolutely breaks the dude's ankles. And I was like, okay, he is very fast, because he's not the biggest guy, but I do see that high football IQ and just an all-around good player. I see lots of potential in him.
Yeah, he's going to be, I think, the fact he's not stepping in and having to be the man basically in this offense, to your point, you got 3 other guys there that are pretty damn solid and really solidified in any offense. And then you add Jordan Addison to the mix. Is he the, special ingredient that kind of takes it to the top? From the rookie of the year standpoint, I mean, he'd have to, I think, really shine and probably outperform some of these quarterbacks that got drafted. The award seems to always favor QBs, but I don't think it's out of the question. I think if he puts up a really solid season and is kind of, the missing ingredient to the Vikings offense, and they're a playoff team and he's adding value to that team, then he's 100% in the conversation for rookie of the year. And it's a lot easier, of course, when you're a quarterback or a wide receiver to win that award. Wouldn't shock me at all if he indeed hits his ceiling that he's competing for it in 2023. Boys, what are your expectations from the Vikings defense here? So it's under Brian Flores now. Ed Donatel last year was mostly a disaster, but it's really still unproven. There's a lot of veterans that have gone off the team in terms of Patrick Peterson and Eric Kendricks and whatnot. So, Luke, what is your expectations from the defensive side for the Vikings this season?
I got really big expectations for the Vikings defense. I see like this take a lot on Facebook where it's like, everyone's expecting Flores to come in and be a miracle worker, and I understand that point, but I really do think that Flores is kind of the missing piece to this puzzle. I mean, if we were going to hire anybody to unlock the talent of these young players that were clearly not being utilized correctly in Donatel's system, I think that's Flores. Like, I don't think we could have asked for a better person in that position. We have so much young talent. And for me, last year was really frustrating at times, just watching these guys kind of underperform because they weren't being utilized correctly. It wasn't entirely their fault. They just weren't in the best position. And I think a huge part of making a successful defense is playing everybody to the best of their abilities. You got to take advantage of what everybody does well. There's a lot of players that I really expect big things from, like Davenport. I know a lot. He's kind of hit or miss for some people. I got big expectations. He was great on pressures, bad on sacks, but he's a 6'6", 265-pound monster. And he also lost part of his pinky prior to the 2022 season, which, it is what it is, but that can't be an easy adjustment. I mean, that's losing part of your hand, and you use your hands a lot in football. Not trying to use that as an excuse for him. I just think that he will show a lot of people his true potential this season. Lewis Seen, I think that Flores will, really unlock his full potential. And that really goes for Caleb Evans and Josh Metellus, Asamoah.
And then I think, Daniil Hunter and the Hitman will get a bit of a revival with Flores playing them to their strengths. So I have big expectations. I'm really excited. I think they could be like a top 15 defense. I don't see much higher than that, but I think they could be good, solid.
Yeah, you'd like to think that like the veteran dudes in terms of like Harrison Smith, Daniil Hunter kind of step in and are just fine here. I'm glad Daniil got locked up. They might have to say goodbye to him in March of next year if he indeed moves on, but they got him locked up. He's a Viking for 2023. He's probably the most important piece. So good on the Vikings to get that established. And yeah, can like basically Marcus Davenport turn into Zadarius Smith's replacement? Can you have the same type of production and can you stay healthy for this whole season? Then you have that two-headed monster right there. The unproven guys, these rookies or second-year players that missed a lot of time last year. I mean, can you just see a couple of these dudes step forward and can Brian Flores unlock them? I feel like Lewis Seen kind of is tracking in terms of the teeter-totter and more of the bust territory than a hit, but still have a lot of season to play out. Maybe he gets an opportunity and shines if there's an injury. But yeah, I think in general, Flores can scheme it up enough where it's passable or they're doing something that is taking the step forward and it's an improvement for the first time basically in like 4 years. Blake, how about you, man? What are your expectations for the Vikings defense this year?
Anything better than last year. I guarantee you I'd say 30% of our fan base could have called an offensive scheme the butcher at Donatel's defense. That's how predictable it was. And I bet Giants fans are kind of irritable right now that they locked up Daniel Jones because he butchered us. But for me, attitude. The one thing that these Vikings have lacked, we have ball players with an attitude. Like they're always talking, but it always seemed like they just show up to work. They're very bland. They don't do anything. I want to go back to those John Randall days. They are yelling. We're going to tell you, we're going to kick your butts. Proceed to kick your butts. Oh yeah, and after the game, remind you that we kicked your butts. Like last year during the Packer game when Alexander was going after JJ, after one incomplete pass, he did the gritty on him, and all game he was in JJ's head. That's the one thing the Vikings defense needs to bring this year. Just get into your opponent's head. If you make a hit, get snippy. You don't toe that line where you're about to commit a penalty, but just have an attitude about yourself, and they have the players to do it. And Brian Flores, I think, is that key piece to unlock that attitude, that aggression. As Dan Campbell says in Detroit, nip at the knees. We're going to be nipping at you. And with Daniil Hunter, if this is his final year, I think we got a really great undrafted free agent class. And Ivan Pace Jr., a middle linebacker who loves chasing down quarterbacks, loves blitzing. And then second lieutenant from the West Point, Andre Carter, who was projected a month before the draft to be a first or second rounder, but somehow fell out of the draft. 6'8" monster, just needs to put on some muscle. I think he's going to be the future replacement for Hunter. I think we got the pieces, regardless of veteranship to rookies, to really make this team, as we stated, to be a top 15 defense and be the key piece that get us to the NFC Championship game. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year.
Yeah, there's some really interesting enforcements there to your point. Can Ivan Pace or Andre Carter be those dudes? Are they going to look to maybe even draft a new defensive end or pass rusher in the draft early next year? Yeah, it just the nastiness, to your point, has just kind of been lacking from that defense for basically the last 4 or 5 years. And you could even make a case, it's been lacking since, those John Randall days or, the Williams wall in the mid 2000s. But yeah, they need to get a different type of swagger. Brian Flores has been a really good defensive coach everywhere he's basically went. And even if this is a one and done situation, he likely gets a head coaching job by this time next year. If he can improve this defense and solidify that, only not to make his resume better, but to obviously make the 2023 Vikings season a lot better and a lot more well-rounded team, you'll certainly take it. Boys, before we wrap here, Luke, do you have any final takes? Do you have any shout outs you want to give when you're in Montana? Even is like there a Vikings bar? Is there a Vikings contingency fan base out there? I guess, how do you even watch the games?
Okay. So first I want to start with final take here. You mentioned Josh Oliver earlier. I think he is going to be an absolute animal.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people kind of didn't really think a whole lot of that signing when it occurred, but he caught a lot of balls in college. I think he's going to be a great receiving and blocking threat. And, as far as the Vikings go in Bozeman, Montana, there's not a whole lot. There's a bar called Spectators that I sometimes watch the game at, but usually I'm just hanging out with my friends all Sunday watching every game. And make them throw on the Vikings game for the entirety of it, because we got a whole bunch of different NFL fans in there from different teams. So
nice, man.
Yep.
Blake, how about you, man? Any last takes, any shout outs you want to give here on Vikings Vent Line?
Obviously, I want to shout out to my family. My mom and I are the only Viking fans in the family, and we're surrounded by a sea of cheese. Everyone else is Packer backers. We're the lone Viking fans. So, and I know she and I will be going at it on Monday Night Football. My girlfriend, Rachel, she's a 49ers fan, born out in California.
Okay.
But she's going to put up with me this year. She's seen what I'm like during hockey season. She's about to see a whole new animal come game day. So, bless your heart, love her to death that she's with me and she stuck with me this long.
Amen, man. Yeah, good luck to you. Good luck to you there on both your family side, the relationship side. That's fighting an uphill battle, but you're fighting a good fight there, rooting for those Vikings. So good luck to you, dude. Hey, if anyone wants to come on a future episode of Vikings Vent Line, hit me up. It is vikingsventline@gmail.com. We got more Judd's camp notes for next week too here on Purple Daily. So hit that subscribe button for daily Minnesota Vikings entertainment, where we just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die.